The galaxy was wide and full of light, yet one place remained dark and forgotten, and that place was Earth, once the heart of a great people, and once the center of a race that touched the stars. Now it was silent, the planets around it were empty, and the colonies that once sang with human voices were quiet. For a long time, alien travelers told stories of the humans. Some said they burned their world in wars, others said they left for another galaxy, and some whispered they were cursed, but all agreed on one thing: the humans were gone, and they were never coming back. The silence stretched across centuries. Ships passed near the Sol system, but none dared to enter too deep, for there were old machines that still drifted, their machines that sometimes woke and scanned the stars, as if they were still guarding something. These machines were silent most of the time, but when they moved, the alien captains turned away for fear of being seen. In the councils of alien empires, humans were remembered as both a warning and a joke. Some rulers spoke of the time when humans fought the great wars and refused to bend to stronger powers. Some remembered how small human fleets had broken mighty armadas with strange tactics and fearless courage. Yet as years passed, the memory became less fear and more laughter. Children of alien worlds asked their teachers who the humans were, and the answer was simple: they were a people who destroyed themselves. Yet in quiet corners of the galaxy, some still wondered, what if the humans had not died? What if they were only hidden and waiting? The thought brought unease, but the galaxy was busy with its own wars and trade and pride. No one had time to think of ghosts. Then one day, a signal was heard. It was weak, like a breath from the edge of the stars. It came not from a thriving world, but from deep within the forgotten reaches near the old Sol system. At first, the signal was ignored, for strange signals often moved through space. Yet this one had a pattern, and the pattern was human. A small listening post on the edge of an alien trade route caught the sound. The officer on duty thought it was broken code from pirates, but when she played it again, her face grew pale, for the language, though old and twisted, was human speech. She sent it to her commander, who sent it further, and soon the whispers spread through the fleet that a human voice had spoken from the dark. The news traveled like fire. Some laughed, saying it was fake. Others claimed it was the echo of a dead machine, still repeating a message from long ago. But deep inside their minds, many felt the same chill. Could it be true? Could the humans still live? In the High Council of the Arkan Dominion, the leaders argued. One elder said the humans could not return, for their bones were dust. Another warned that if even a fragment of humanity had survived, they must be watched, for humans were not like others. They grew stronger in shadows. They thrived in loss. They always found a way back. The room fell silent, for even the young ones had heard the tales of human defiance. Meanwhile, in a small alien ship near the edge of Sol, a crew listened to the signal. They had been ordered to investigate, though none wished to go near the dead worlds. The captain spoke quietly to his crew. He said, if humans are truly gone, then we will return with proof, and if not, then we will know the truth at last. They entered the forgotten system with hearts heavy. Around them floated wrecks of old satellites, some still glowing faintly with dying power. The Earth itself was hidden in clouds and silence. The moon bore scars of long battles, craters deep and dark. The crew felt eyes on them, though no one was there, and the signal grew stronger. Inside the ship, the youngest crew member whispered, what if they are still here? The others laughed nervously, but none truly believed their own laughter. They followed the sound until they reached a ruined outpost circling Earth, and there they found it: broken walls, frozen air, and a beacon pulsing with life. The captain stood before the beacon and touched its old panels. The language was strange, but not lost, and as the lights flickered, a voice spoke, weak and broken, yet still alive. It said, we are not gone, we endure. The crew froze, their hearts pounded, for the words were human, not old records, not static, not broken code, but real words of living will. The silence of humanity was broken, and across the galaxy the first spark of fear and wonder began to grow. The small alien crew could not believe what they had just heard, for the old beacon in the ruined station spoke with a voice that was neither machine nor echo, but something alive. The words, we are not gone, we endure, echoed in their ears, and their hearts filled with dread and wonder at the same time. For centuries the galaxy had told the tale that humans had destroyed themselves, yet here was a sound that denied the tale. The captain of the crew stood in silence while the rest argued. One said, it must be a trick left long ago by human machines. Another said, it could be an old loop still running since the last war. But the youngest spoke again with eyes wide with fear and hope. What if it is real? What if humans are alive? The thought itself felt like fire inside the room. The captain gave orders to scan the beacon and to record the signal. The beacon pulsed in rhythm, sending the same message again and again, yet each time there were slight changes, like the voice was adjusting to the listeners, trying to be understood. This was no empty record. This was someone reaching out across the long dark. As the crew worked, the signal grew stronger and began to stretch beyond the ruined station out into space, and then further into the void. Soon, other listening posts on far edges of different empires heard the same message repeating and repeating, "We're not gone, we endure." Across the stars, leaders and soldiers and traders all began to whisper the same words. In the great halls of the Arkan Dominion, the elders listened in silence. When a voice played through the chamber, one young noble laughed nervously, saying, "This cannot be true, for the humans are dust." But the elder raised his hand and spoke with weight in his voice, "Do not laugh, for even dust can rise into storms. If the humans are truly alive, then the galaxy faces a truth we never prepared for." Meanwhile, the signal reached the Council of the Veari Confederacy. Their fleets once fought bitter wars against humans long ago, and their records still carried scars of defeat. Now, their admirals debated. Some called for the signal to be silenced and for the beacon to be destroyed. Others said it must be studied to understand if humans truly remained. A whisper of fear returned to their minds as they remembered battles where humans fought with fire in their eyes and never yielded. While the galaxy trembled, the small alien crew near Earth pressed deeper into the station. The walls were broken, yet the beacon had power from somewhere. And within the ruin, they found strange machines silent, but waiting. One machine flickered and lit up as if aware of their presence. A screen showed lines of human script, and though the crew could not read it, they felt the weight of the message. Suddenly, the beacon shifted its rhythm, and the words changed. "Help us, we are waiting." The crew looked at each other, for the voice was no longer just endurance. It was a call, it was a plea, and it was alive. The captain hesitated, knowing that to answer could change everything, yet knowing also that to ignore could invite a danger beyond measure. He touched the console and spoke in the tongue of his people. "We hear you. What are you? Who are you?" There was no sound for a long breath. Then the beacon replied, "We are human. We are here. We are waiting." The crew trembled, for the truth was clear now. This was not an echo of the past. This was a cry from the present. And if it was true, then the silence of humanity had been only a mask, and beneath it they had endured, hidden, waiting for the moment to rise again. Word of the living signal spread faster than light, carried by gossip and fear. Entire fleets changed course to watch the Sol system. Smugglers whispered of human ghosts rising. Once more, scholars rushed to uncover old records of human wars, trying to remember how the lost people fought and how they thought. In the midst of it all, the ordinary people of alien worlds felt unease, for the stories of human courage and cruelty that had become myth were now waking as reality. Back in the ruins, the alien crew debated what to do. The youngest urged to follow the signal deeper to see if humans could be found. The engineer warned of traps, for humans were clever and their machines could hide dangers. The captain listened, then spoke with steady voice, "We will report. We will not decide the fate of this alone. For if humans are alive, this is not for a small crew. This is for the galaxy." They left the beacon, but the message did not fade. It grew louder, as if the voice had been waiting for someone to hear, and once heard, it refused to stop. The words, "We are human, we are here, we are waiting," flowed into every corner of space, and there was no ruler, no soldier, no trader who could escape its sound. The galaxy shivered, for the silence of humanity was broken, and the distress call had begun. The news of the human signal spread like a storm across every star system and every colony, for no one could escape the voice that echoed in endless rhythm, saying, "We are human, we are here, we are waiting." And with each cycle of those words, the galaxy felt a new weight pressing on its heart, the weight of memory, the weight of fear, the weight of stories once thought to be myths. In the Arkan Dominion, where vast fleets had long ruled the spaceways, the admirals gathered in shadowed chambers and whispered that the return of humanity could unravel the balance of power. For the Arkans remembered old records of human fleets that fought like storms with no care for their own loss and no surrender in their hearts. Some called for immediate war to erase the possibility of human return. Others urged patience, for no one yet knew how many humans remained or what strength they carried. On the far worlds of the Vayari Confederacy, the fear was even greater, for the Vayari had once been crushed in open war against humans. Their songs still carried lines of shame and sorrow, where human soldiers burned across the sky with unbroken resolve. Now, their council debated in panic, some saying that the signal must be blocked across every channel, others saying that such a signal could never be silenced, for once truth is spoken, it cannot be hidden. The ordinary people of alien markets and crowded cities felt unease in their daily lives, for children began asking questions about the humans, and old tales once told for laughter now felt like warnings in disguise. In taverns, merchants whispered about human cunning and the way they used simple tools to win impossible battles. Miners in the outer belt spoke of how humans thrived in harsh places where no other species could breathe. Farmers told their families that humans might already be walking among them, hiding and watching and waiting. Back near the ruins of Earth, the small alien crew that first found the signal remained under strict command to wait and watch. Their captain carried the burden of knowing they had spoken to the voice inside the beacon, and that voice had answered with words alive, not machine. When he tried to sleep, he could still hear the sound repeating in his mind, "We are human, we are here, we are waiting." And though his crew trusted his strength, he felt the cold of fear beneath his calm. The youngest of the crew, however, was filled with restless energy. She could not stop wondering if humans were close, if they had been listening all along, and if they had chosen now to reveal themselves. She asked again and again, what if they are stronger than before? What if they never died? What if we are only the first to hear them? The others tried to silence her words, but deep down they felt the same. Across the galaxy, rumors spread like fire. Some claimed that entire fleets had vanished near the Sol system, swallowed by human traps. Others whispered that human spies had been living within alien governments, guiding wars and trade with unseen hands. None of these stories were proven, yet each added to the shadow of fear, and in every council chamber, leaders struggled to control the panic. In one forgotten archive, an old scholar found records that described the final battles of humans long ago, and in those records he read of how humans would fight with fire in their souls, even when hopeless, how they would rather fall than yield, and how they could turn even ruin into strength. The scholar trembled as he wrote his report, saying that if humans truly endured, then no empire could ever feel safe again. Meanwhile, the beacon continued to change, its words no longer only saying, "We are human, we are here, we are waiting." Sometimes it whispered, "Help us." Sometimes it declared, "We will rise." And sometimes it fell silent, as if listening to the galaxy that now listened back. Each change made the fear grow, for it meant there was intelligence behind it, not just a machine, but a will. The Arkan Dominion began to ready fleets cloaked in silence, moving ships toward the Sol system. The Vayari Confederacy sent spies to gather truth about the beacon. Smaller empires argued whether to ally together or to hide in shadow, and through it all the people whispered that perhaps the galaxy's greatest mistake was to believe that humans were gone. In the quiet void between stars, the alien crew stared at the planet that had once been called Earth, broken and scarred from wars, yet still turning with oceans and clouds and storms. The youngest whispered again, "Maybe they're down there, maybe they never left." And as her words faded, the beacon pulsed with new strength, sending across the stars a message that froze every listening ear. The message said, "You feared we were gone, you hoped we were gone, but we are waiting." And the voice carried no anger, only certainty, a certainty that struck deeper than any weapon, for it meant that the silence of humanity had only been a mask, and now the mask was falling. Fear began to turn into action across the galaxy. Rulers made secret plans, admirals sharpened their fleets, merchants hoarded supplies, and ordinary people wondered if the return of humanity would mean salvation or ruin for their worlds. No one knew, but all agreed on one truth: nothing would remain the same. The first fear had taken hold, and it would not let go. The galaxy trembled beneath whispers as leaders and rulers turned their eyes toward the ruins of Earth, where the human beacon sang its strange song that no empire could silence. The fear that first spread like smoke now hardened into action, for no one wished to be caught unready if humanity truly returned from silence. In the Arkan Dominion, the admirals stood in great halls of black stone, where the banners of old victories hung heavy above their heads. One by one, they spoke of strategy In defense, some urged caution to wait for more knowledge, while others demanded swift attack. Before humans could gather strength, they remembered the stories of human fleets that once tore across the stars with burning will, and they feared that such will could rise again. The Supreme Admiral raised his voice, saying, "If humans live, then we must strike before they rise, for if they rise first the galaxy will bow whether it chooses or not." Far across the stars in the Veari Confederacy, the Council of Elders spoke with sorrow and anger for their people. Had once tasted the fire of human war, they remembered when human soldiers burned through their cities, leaving songs of grief that still echoed in their bloodlines. Many of the elders cried out that the humans must never return, while younger voices whispered that maybe humanity carried secrets worth learning. The council ended in silence, for no side held victory, only dread. On the outer edges of the galaxy, smaller empires began forging secret pacts. Some promised to share fleets, others to share knowledge. Some even whispered of joining with pirates and mercenaries to build strength, for all feared the shadow of humanity. Yet none could truly agree on what to do, for every plan carried risk, and no one knew how strong or weak the humans had become in their long silence. Meanwhile, on the broken world of Earth, the alien crew remained close to the beacon, watching its steady light pulse through the dark. The captain wrote secret reports that he dared not send to his masters for fear they would bring fleets too soon. He knew that something was stirring in the beacon and in the ruins of Earth itself, and he feared that any reckless action would awaken what lay hidden too early. The youngest of the crew grew restless. She wandered near the ruined cities where towers lay in broken bones and nature had begun to crawl back. She found strange carvings burned into old walls, marks that spoke of struggle and survival. She told her captain, but he dismissed them as nothing more than relics. Yet she felt eyes upon her, as if something unseen watched from the shadows of ruined streets. She whispered to herself that humans were never gone. They were only waiting, and the beacon was proof. Back in distant systems, merchants grew rich from fear. They sold weapons to any who would pay. They carried rumors in hushed voices, saying that human ghosts walked among the stars, that human voices had been heard in dreams, that human weapons had been seen in hidden markets. No proof followed these tales. Yet the more they were told, the more they became truth in the minds of common people. A single scholar in the archives of the Union of Worlds uncovered forgotten texts sealed away. For centuries, the texts described the last battles of humanity in detail. They spoke of how humans turned defeat into strength, how they used their weakness as weapon, and how they fought not for empire, but for survival. The scholar trembled as he wrote to his leaders, warning them that if even a fragment of humanity remained, then they would rise again with a fire that no star could dim. In the darkness of his chamber, the scholar whispered, a single thought: humanity was the storm that never ended. Across the galaxy, fleets began to move, though quietly hidden behind cloaks of secrecy. The Arkan Dominion sent warships drifting towards Sol, cloaked in silence. The Veari Confederacy sent spies wrapped in shadows, hoping to find proof of human life. Before fleets arrived, smaller empires armed their borders, though many feared that walls could never hold back humanity if it came in strength. And yet among all this fear, a quiet hope stirred in some hearts, for a few began to wonder if the return of humanity might not bring ruin, but balance. Some whispered that humans once fought not only to destroy, but also to protect. Some told their children that maybe humans would stand against the cruelty of empires that ruled them in iron hands, but such whispers were soft and hidden, for to speak them loudly invited punishment. The beacon changed again. Its light pulsed brighter, and its voice shifted from waiting to warning. It declared, we see you watching us. We hear you planning against us. We are not gone. We are the shadow in your fear. We are the fire in your silence. And with each word, the galaxy shivered, for the voice did not sound like a relic. It sounded alive. On Earth itself, storms rolled across ruined oceans. Lightning cracked against broken towers. And deep within the shattered cities, strange movements stirred. Unseen shapes crawled through the shadows, as if awakening from long sleep. The youngest of the alien crew felt at first a pressure in the air, a weight on her chest. She told her captain that something beneath the ground was alive, but he ordered silence, for fear had begun to crush his will. Still, she could not remain silent. She pressed her hand against the beacon, and in that moment, she heard whispers not through ears, but through her mind. The whispers said, "You are not the enemy, but your masters, or they will come soon. But we will be ready." And she stumbled back, trembling, for the voice had felt alive and close, as if it had been waiting only for her. The galaxy now stood on the edge of change, fleets gathering, councils divided, people whispering, leaders fearing, and at the center of it all the beacon of humanity, pulsing brighter each cycle, carrying words that could no longer be ignored. Shadows of preparation spread across every star, yet none could know if those shadows were strong enough to face what was coming. The galaxy had believed humans were gone, but the galaxy was wrong, and soon it would learn the cost of its mistake. The galaxy waited in uneasy silence as fleets drifted in hidden paths and councils whispered behind closed doors. Every ruler felt the weight of the beacon's voice, every soldier felt the pull of fear, and every citizen wondered what future would come if humanity had truly survived their long silence. On Earth, the alien crew stood divided. Some believed the beacon was only an ancient trick, a last message from a dying race that no longer breathed, while others felt that something lived beneath the ruined soil, waiting for the right moment to rise. The captain tried to keep order, but doubt gnawed at his heart each night. He dreamed of firestorms across the stars and voices calling his name in human tongues he had never learned. The youngest of the crew who had touched the beacon felt its whispers still pressing inside her mind. When she closed her eyes, she saw faces she did not know, yet she felt their anger and their pain. She saw great ships rising from oceans of smoke. She heard cries of war, and she woke each morning with her chest tight and her hands shaking. Though she spoke little, she began to believe that humanity was not dead, only hidden, waiting. In the Arkan Dominion, the Supreme Admiral stood before his fleet with fire in his words. He told them that humans were parasites that once spread war across the galaxy. He said that if humans were truly alive, they must be erased before they gathered strength. His soldiers cheered, but their cheers trembled with fear, for they too had heard the old stories of human defiance, and in their secret hearts they wondered if their admiral's orders were not the path to their own ruin. Far away, the Vaari Confederacy sent their spies into ruined Earth, dressed in shadows and silence. They crept among the broken towers and the endless forests where nature had swallowed cities. They saw strange symbols carved into walls, symbols that glowed faintly under the moon, as if carrying energy unknown. They carried these findings back to their council, and the elders grew restless, for the signs suggested survival, not extinction, and the thought of humanity alive filled them with old terror. Among smaller empires, chaos grew. Merchants sold false relics of humanity to stoke fear. Priests warned that the return of humans was punishment for forgotten sins. Miners refused to travel near Sol, claiming that strange dreams called them into the dark, while warlords spoke of unity only to hide their greed. In the end, every whisper, every rumor only added to the storm of unease that shook the galaxy. Back on Earth, the beacon pulsed brighter, and with each wave it carried not only sound but vision across the stars. Some saw images of human soldiers standing unbroken in endless lines. Others saw burning skies and ships the size of cities drifting through war fire. Every mind that touched the beacon's voice carried the images like scars, unable to forget, unable to silence what had been seen. The alien crew feared the beacon, but they could not leave. Their orders chained them to the ruins. Yet the youngest of them grew more certain with each day that the beacon was not a relic, but a warning. She walked among the broken cities, where she found more strange markings like paths guiding her deeper into the ruins, until one day she reached a chamber hidden beneath collapsed stone. Inside the chamber lay a great circle of metal, cracked, yet alive with faint light. She touched it, and voices filled her mind. The voices said, "We are waiting, we are watching, we are not gone. And when the galaxy comes, we will rise." The words pressed into her like fire. She fell to her knees, and when she opened her eyes, she saw shadows moving within the circle, shapes of men and women flickering like ghosts. She ran back to her crew, yet she spoke nothing, for she feared they would call her mad. Still the voices remained echoing within her. Meanwhile, the Union of Worlds gathered their council. The scholar who had uncovered the forgotten text stood before them with shaking hands. He told them that humanity had never fought for empire, but for survival, that every battle was born of desperation, and that if they had survived their silence, they would not forgive the galaxy that left them for dead. Many on the council dismissed him, but some listened with fear and wonder, asking quietly if perhaps humanity's return could reshape the balance of power. The beacon's voice grew stronger. It no longer spoke only in warnings, but in challenges. It said to the galaxy, "You believed us broken, you believed us gone, but you never understood our fire. We endured silence, we endured ruin, and now we endure your fear. We are the echo of every world you burned. We are the hand that will rise when you strike, and we are waiting for you." These words spread like storm winds across the stars. Soldiers whispered them at night, children repeated them in fear, and hope leaders ordered them silenced. Yet they lived in every corner of the galaxy, and the fear grew deeper. On Earth, storms grew heavier. Lightning struck the beacon itself. Yet it did not falter. The alien captain began to break under the pressure. He wrote one final report to his masters, telling them that humanity was alive and rising. He begged them not to send fleets, yet he knew his words would be ignored, for no empire could resist the chance to strike first against humanity. The youngest crew member finally confessed her visions. She told the captain and her comrades that she had seen shadows of humans waiting beneath the ruins, that she had heard their voices calling and warning, that they were ready to awaken. Some mocked her, some called her mad, but in their eyes she saw the same fear that had grown in her own. The galaxy now gathered like a storm, fleets, circling soul spies, crawling through ruins, councils divided, and voices rising, and at the center of it all the beacon burned brighter, with each cycle no longer a whisper, but a roar across the dark. The awakening echo had begun, and nothing could silence it, for humanity was not gone. Humanity was waiting, and the galaxy was about to learn what mistake it had made. The galaxy braced itself as fleets gathered in the cold, dark beyond Sol, while councils and warlords argued in secret chambers. Each ruler spoke of courage, but their hearts shook with fear, for they all remembered the old tales of human fire and defiance. On Earth, the alien crew felt the weight of silence heavier with each passing night. The captain, who once carried calm, now stared into the void with hollow eyes. His dreams filled with human voices that echoed warnings and promises of return. He no longer trusted his own mind, yet duty chained him to the ruins, and he could not flee. The youngest of the crew, who had touched the hidden chamber, carried visions that grew sharper with each day. She saw human figures standing in lines like shadows. She saw hands reaching from the soil. She heard the call of drums in the deep earth. And though she feared these visions, she also felt hope rising, for she began to believe that humanity had chosen her to bear their warning. In the far reaches of the stars, the Arkan Dominion moved its war fleets closer to Sol. Thousands of ships in black steel, waiting in silence. Their supreme admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, his voice iron, as he declared that humans must be destroyed before they awaken. His officers saluted, yet their hands trembled, for even they could not forget the stories told by their ancestors of human battles that turned the sky into fire. The Vayari Confederacy, too, prepared, but with a different path. Their spies returned with strange findings. They reported that Earth itself seemed a live forest that grew too quickly, ruins that glowed faintly under the moon, rivers that whispered like voices. And though their council debated for many hours, in the end they agreed that something beneath Earth's surface was waiting, and they chose to prepare not with war, but with fear and silence. Across smaller empires, chaos grew. Merchants spread rumors, for profit priests declared the beacon a curse, while common people whispered that humanity was a storm chained beneath the ground, and many worlds lit their skies with fires of warning, asking their leaders to act before it was too late. Yet no leader found comfort in the choices before them, for striking first might awaken the storm, while waiting might invite ruin. The beacon itself pulsed brighter, now no longer faint but fierce. Its light climbed into the sky of Earth, flashing into the stars, and its voice grew louder, speaking words that carried into the dreams of millions across the galaxy. It said, "We are not gone, we are not broken, we are the tremor before the quake, and you cannot silence us." The words filled rulers with dread and filled soldiers with unease, for the voice did not sound weak, it sounded certain. On Earth, the youngest crew member returned to the hidden chamber. Guided by visions, once again, she touched the circle of metal, and once again the shadows stirred, but this time they moved closer, their faces clearer, their eyes burning with strange light. They whispered to her, in voices sharp as blades. They said, "Soon the galaxy will tremble, soon the silence will end, soon the storm will rise." She fled in terror, yet she carried their words like fire inside her heart. The captain confronted her, demanding truth. She spoke of her visions, her encounters with human shadows, her belief that the beacon was not a relic, but a call. The crew argued, some believed her, others mocked her. But none could deny the fear that her words stirred in their hearts, for the beacon pulsed brighter with every hour, and its voice could no longer be ignored. Meanwhile, in the Union of Worlds, the Council divided into factions. The scholar who defended humanity spoke again. He warned that a strike at Earth might awaken the very power they feared. He argued that humanity had endured extinction, silence, and ruin, and any race that endured such trials could not be erased with simple fire. Yet his voice was drowned by those who demanded action, and their fleets, too, began to move toward Sol. The galaxy became a ring of steel around Earth, yet no empire dared strike. First, every commander feared that their attack might unleash a storm none could control, so fleets waited in silence, their weapons armed, their soldiers restless, their leaders torn between fear and pride. Back on Earth, storms gathered in the skies, lightning struck across the ruins, the forests roared with winds, and the beacons surged brighter, as if feeding on the chaos. The alien crew huddled in fear, their captain writing desperate reports to his masters, begging them to recall the mission, yet he knew they would not listen, for greed and fear had already gripped the galaxy. The youngest crew member dreamed again, this time of a vast army, rising from beneath the soil, ships lifting from oceans, cities rebuilding from ash. She saw human eyes filled with fire staring back at the galaxy, and she woke trembling, knowing that the tremor had already begun. The beacon roared now, its light visible to every fleet around Sol, its voice shaking every ship. It said, "You believed us lost, but we endured. You believed us broken, but we rose. You believed us silent, but we speak. And now you will learn that silence was only the beginning." These words struck the galaxy like thunder, and even the strongest commanders felt their courage falter. The first tremor had come not with fire, not with war, but with voice and vision, yet it shook the galaxy more than any battle could, for every empire, every fleet, every soldier now believed that humanity was not gone, and if humanity was not gone, then nothing was certain. And in the ruins of Earth, shadows stirred deeper than ever before, whispers echoing through stone and soil, whispers that spoke of awakening and vengeance, whispers that promised the storm to come. The galaxy held its breath as the light from Earth spread across the stars. The fleets that surrounded Sol stood frozen, their weapons armed, but their hearts unsure, for every commander felt the same fear, that to strike would invite a storm no ship could survive, and so they waited in silence. On Earth, the alien crew gathered in the ruins, their captain pale and broken by sleepless nights, his eyes red from visions that haunted him. The youngest of the crew stood apart, her hands trembling, but her gaze steady, for she alone had touched the chamber, and she alone had heard the voices that spoke of return. She whispered that the silence was ending, but the others covered their ears, for they did not wish to believe what she said. The beacon pulsed brighter than ever, its glow reaching the edges of the galaxy. Worlds far away could see the strange light burning across their skies. Children pointed and cried, while priests declared omens and leaders issued commands, yet no command could quiet the fear that spread like fire, for the voice of the beacon was now carried into every dream across the stars. It said, "The storm is rising, the storm cannot be stopped." In the Arkan Dominion, the Supreme Admiral struck the table, with fury demanding that the fleet strike before it was too late. But his officers hesitated. None wished to be the first, none wished to carry the blame if the legends of human fury proved true. So their fleets circled like predators, unwilling to leap upon prey that might yet devour them. In the Vari Confederacy, the council sat in silence, their spies reporting strange signs on Earth, forests that twisted unnaturally, animals that gathered in strange groups, rivers that glowed faintly as if lit from below, and most fearful of all, ruins that shifted as though walls and towers were moving of their own. While the council could not decide if these were tricks of the mind or proof that Earth itself was alive, yet they all agreed on one truth. The silence was over. The union of worlds fractured into chaos, with factions screaming for peace and others calling for fire. The scholar, who had warned them of humanity, rose once more, and his voice was heavy as he said that to strike at Earth now would be to awaken something greater than any empire could control. But his warning was met with shouts and curses, for fear had grown too deep, and leaders no longer sought wisdom. They sought escape from the dread that consumed them. On Earth, storms tore through the skies, lightning cracked over the ruins, thunder rolled across oceans. The alien crew cowered in fear. Yet the youngest walked into the storm, her visions guiding her steps. She reached the chamber once more and pressed her hands upon the circle of metal, and the shadows rose again. But now they no longer whispered, now they shouted, their voices filling the air with fire. They said, "The storm breaks tonight, the storm breaks through you." Her body shook as light surged through her veins, her eyes burned with fire. She screamed as voices poured through her mouth, speaking words she did not understand. Yet the crew around her fell to their knees, for the words were filled with power. The ground trembled beneath them, the ruins shook, dust rising into the stormy sky, and from deep below came a sound like drums, like the heartbeat of Earth itself. The fleets above Sol felt the tremor through their ships, their instruments flickered their lights, failed soldiers screamed as dreams flooded their minds, dreams of fire and steel, of battles long forgotten, of humans standing unbroken against endless enemies. They woke shaking with sweat, some begging to retreat, others swearing to attack, but none able to steady their hearts. The beacon no longer pulsed, it blazed like a star, sending waves of energy across the system, disabling ships, breaking machines, twisting metal. With unseen force, many fleets panicked, retreating into the dark, while others tried to hold their positions, their leaders shouting orders, lost beneath the roar of fear. The Supreme Admiral of the Arkan Dominion screamed at his crews to strike now, but as his words echoed through the fleet, his flagship shuddered, as if gripped by unseen hands. Screens went black, engines failed, and in the silence that followed, every officer heard a voice whisper inside their minds, "We warned you, we endured, you cannot silence the storm." On Earth, the youngest collapsed, her body weak, her voice broken, yet her eyes glowed faintly with the fire of visions. She whispered that the storm was not yet here, but only breaking, that what rose now was only the first breath of humanity's return. The captain held her trembling body, yet his own strength failed him, for he too had begun to hear the voices, not in dreams, but in waking moments. Across the galaxy, entire worlds now felt the tremor. Crops withered, skies darkened, waters churned, and the people whispered that the storm had begun. Priests fell silent, merchants closed their trade, soldiers prayed to gods they had forgotten, and leaders wept in chambers where once they ruled with pride. The fleets above Sol scattered, some vanishing into the dark, others staying, but trembling with fear. No empire wished to be first, no empire wished to carry the burden of awakening. What lay beneath Earth, the galaxy that had once mocked humanity, now feared even their silence, and with each breath the fear grew heavier. In the ruins, the youngest rose once more, her body weak, but her voice steady. She said that the storm would come, not tomorrow, not in a distant age, but soon, very soon. And when it came, it would not ask for mercy, it would not ask for peace, it would rise like fire and consume all who had believed humanity gone. Her words echoed through the ruins, carried on the wind like thunder. And deep below Earth, something stirred, something vast, something older than the wars of the galaxy, something that had waited in silence for centuries. It opened its eyes in the dark, its voice a whisper that shook the soil and the seas. "We are awake, we are the storm, and the galaxy will remember us." The storm had broken, not in battle, not in fire, but in fear and trembling. And yet every ruler, every soldier, every world knew this truth: the storm would not wait much longer, and when it rose, nothing would ever be the same again.